Just like 2 seconds, I'm booting up the VM that has the question bot,
Sure, man.
but we can do intros or other things.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome that you're here, man. It's such an honor. Yeah, man. A lot of people are very excited. I'm very excited. I've been watching your videos for years, man. I think at least 4 or 5 years, and they've really helped. They've really helped with everything. And actually, every Sunday, I do a Hack the Box live tutorial in this group. And when I'm preparing for the box, I always like watch your video and also the 0xdf blog. So I read it about the
Yeah,
machine to see if there's any like tips or tricks that I could give away to the community as well. So it's very awesome, man. How are you doing?
good. I think you guys just did delivery, or was that upcoming?
Yeah, we just did delivery. It's one of your machines, right?
Yep.
Yeah, a week ago. Yeah, I said that as well. Like this is a IppSec machine, and next week we're gonna have a Q&A with IppSec. So it's very cool. I wanted to share something with the group as well about your bot because you showed me a bot.
Yep. It is offline right now. I'm trying to get it back online.
Okay, let me
I just got to
check.
power the VM up.
Okay, that's completely no problem. Yeah, so someone says I'm fangirling, but I think everyone is a big fan here, right? I don't think I'm the only one right now. Yeah, so how's everything, man? How's life? How's work? You work at Hack the Box right now, right?
Yeah, I started 5 years ago, I think. I think my channel was like 8 years old, and I started Hack the Box when my channel was 3, I want to
Yeah,
say.
yeah. So what were you doing before that, actually?
I was leading a like purplish team
Okay,
at a company.
okay. So you've been interested in this probably since you were much younger, right?
Yeah, I back when like I was in middle school, I had a blog and I did a bunch of video game hacking when I was a kid.
Yeah. Anything that we should know of? Any games that we know probably?
Like StarCraft or Diablo.
Okay, that's dope. Diablo 1 or 2?
Both.
Both. Crazy. Hey guys, if there's any questions, like we prepared a bot that could take questions, but if anyone has any questions already, just post them. I think if IppSec doesn't see them, I'll just read them aloud, and they'll be fine too. So let me check already. Hey, Willy, listening in the car, that's cool. So DS is asking how old were you when you started hacking?
It I guess it really depends. I remember back in the day I hacked a MMO called The Realm.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a King's Quest style MMO, like one screen type of thing. And when I say hack, it was very light. Like that was before the days of like encryption. And like I was just sniffing packets with Ethereal because back then it was called Ethereal, not Wireshark. And
Okay.
then I want to say Ali Debug was called something else as well. But I found out how to enable like the GM mode and send like floating heads of death and just kill random people in town, which was a lot of fun. I
Which
think
is
I was like 14 or 15 then.
That's crazy. So that was an online game, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And okay, at 14 or 15, and before that, like, were you already interested in this type of stuff? Did you use, I don't know, online tutorials, or were you already like studying this stuff?
There wasn't really online tutorials back then.
Oh yeah.
Like that was when Google like wasn't even popular. I remember thinking in school, like all my librarians, teachers, and things said like um, to use Google, and I wanted to use like Alta Vista or web crawler because if the teacher's saying it, it's got to be bad, right?
Yeah.
So, um, like there was the day before online tutorials.
Okay.
My brother is 7 years older than me. He was also in computers. Also, like I got started looking at Planet Source Code. That was like the old day GitHub. And some people had open source like cheats and things like that. So you could see how to do like memory manipulation and things like that. So I mainly learned from just reading source code.
Okay, that's crazy. Shifter's asking, do you have any more in the pipeline, like ProLab Wanderer?
Nothing's in the pipeline right now.
Hmm?
We had Hack the Box just acquired ProLabs, which has a lot of they called them chains, and I want to say it was like chains and labs, and chains are like mini lab, like the end games for in Hack the Box. So I think the team's going to be releasing all of those throughout the end of the year, and then maybe once the year's over, we'll think of how to do a new Pro Lab. Right now, um, we're really trying to find a good way to do retired ProLabs because, as you imagine, like once we release 10 more from Lab, there's going to be like 20 ProLabs. So we kind of have to like retire some so we don't have to keep updating them and doing things like that. I'm thinking like once the ProLab retires, it should go into a guided mode experience or something like that. But there's a lot of plans we have to do with just ProLabs in general before we start creating more.
Yeah. So guided mode, would you still need like the full access to the ProLabs, or would be a VIP subscription be enough to like, because already you can do a couple ProLabs without purchasing.
I'm guessing it would be under the ProLab subscription.
Okay.
I don't know that level.
Okay. Yeah. So at Hack the Box right now, you curate machines, right? You check them before they get released and stuff like this. Is that
I'm
accurate?
part of the team. I don't do much hands-on testing
Yeah.
nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So when a machine gets submitted to Hack the Box, before it gets into like testing and things like that, we have what we call the um, release committee, review the write-up and everything like that, make suggestions on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where like me, OXDF, the Cyber Geek, Rogue, XCT, all those people are on that committee. We review the write-ups probably 9 times out of 10. We'll send machines back to the authors with just small tweaks that we noticed at the write-up phase to keep it like coherent, trying to tie like the root into the user. Because I really like we don't like boxes that don't have a story nowadays. Like when you land on a box from the user, the root should be somehow tied to that, right? It shouldn't just be you pop this web app and then for no reason you have TCP dump with capability set, and that's how you like escalate. Like we don't like just random things. It has to be coherent. So I do
Yeah.
that. And I float between various departments. I think the app is up now, but people would have to refresh Discord to see it. However, with 23 and we can probably manage it without the app. But
Yeah, I
I just
think we
create a
can
lot of
manage.
just small programs and help out where I see fit.
Yeah, I think we can manage. We think we can manage. Script Kid is asking, can you share how you learn for certificates, or what's your game plan? Because do you do a lot of certificates, or?
I don't. Back when I was a sysadmin before I got into security, I did. Uh, I got up to I was a Solaris big admin, a Red Hat certified engineer. I forget what Microsoft called it, and then I was studying for CCIE on Cisco. I failed the hands-on portion, passed the write-up portion, and then they changed the exam, and that's when I kind of quit being a sysadmin. That's around the time things started moving to cloud, and Cisco like changed their exam to the cloud, and I didn't want to learn the cloud, so I decided to switch over into security, and I gave myself 30 days to pass OSCP. If I did not pass it, I was probably going to go full time into esports because during that time I was also a professional StarCraft 2 player slash commentator, and I had a job offer to move to Seoul for GOM TV to do commentating on StarCraft. So if I didn't pass OSCP, I was going to do that.
You're gonna be a commentator for
Obviously, I
StarCraft.
passed.
That's dope. That's dope. So you did it in 30 days. That's fast, man. I heard a lot of people like when they want to start doing it, it takes between 6 and 12 months for them to get it.
Yeah, I had a lot of experience just doing CTFs and various things back
Yeah,
then.
yeah,
Um, Even though like I was a sysadmin, I was more purple team, so I had some hands on. Like I had a lot of experience towards OSCP back then,
yeah,
and the exam was very different. And I think this was 2014. I got it. It was
yeah,
either 2014 or early 2015. The exam was very different.
yeah. No Active Directory, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so Remlos is asking, do you have any tips for AD? He's asking about the methodology, but I think that's a bit, that's a whole session, right? Just to explain that. Maybe some tricks about AD?
I would say just I know it's going to sound like a big plug, but the Hack the Box has like a 101 on Active Directory, and it doesn't go into attacking. It goes just into managing and setting it up. I think like having a good foundation in Active Directory would help a lot. I've never really struggled on attacking it. but I was a sysadmin for Active Directory for a decade. So like I'm familiar with all the concepts. And then when people put out like how you exploit it, like I already have an idea.
Yeah.
So like when the like Active Directory certificate chains came out, like when they say ESC 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever,
Yeah.
like that's Greek to a lot of people. Like they just don't really understand what that is. But like coming from a sysadmin background, you look at like the description of what the attack chain is, and you're like, oh, I've set this up for users. I can see how it can be exploited, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have like the background and terminology, I think it's going to be really difficult. But once you start knowing the terminology, it becomes easier. And I think that goes with just security in general. Like, I know a lot of beginners try to keep up with CVEs by just like memorizing what the CVE goes to, and like they try to create this big flow chart and like use that to how to approach machines. Like I see this, I run this, I see this, I run this, and I don't really think that's a good way to approach it, because if this field was um, easy to automate like that, because computers are really good at flowcharts. So if you're operating on a flowchart, like the big companies are going to like automate that easily, or AI is going to do that well. You kind of have to build some type of intuition. And once you start doing that, instead of just saying, oh, it's WordPress, I go to these three exploits, and instead go, oh, it's WordPress, this is the thing I do to enumerate how it's configured. Like that gets you in the door with exploiting much easier. And it also helps like understand exploits quickly, because you start going, oh, this is a server-side request forgery in PHP. I know these three gadgets that can commonly be exploited, like file disclosures. Like if it's an old version of PHP, you have that buffer overflow in glibc. You could potentially do a far archive. You have a lot of just the PHP filter gadget chains to do things.
Yeah.
There's also like a error oracle to leak. Like it sounds all complicated, but once you've seen that in 5 CVEs and you have a background of those like 4 chains, then
Yeah.
whenever you come across a exploit, you're like, oh, I can piece together what it's doing because I understand 25% of this chain before going into it.
Yeah. Okay, so basically for AD, it's the solid foundation of understanding actually before
Yeah.
even exploiting, understanding what it's about. Because if you have a foundation stepping into anything, um, it's easier for you to come up with stuff. For
Yeah.
example, like you said, if you see
Like
PHP, yeah,
like I'm not good with cloud. I put off learning that a lot, but when I go to learn Azure, I'm like, okay, Intune is kind of like a group policy. Like you start building those relationships in your head, and you go, okay, oh, Intune's kind of like group policy. What attacks could I do via group policy? Let me go Google these terms with group policy, converting over to Intune, and see if the attack is still applicable, right? So
So would you
I think just
recommend?
having the foundation.
So would you recommend maybe doing something like CCNA before attempting OSCP, just so you have like, so you understand how networks work, bit basically. You understand
I
what?
don't think that would help that much.
Yeah.
I think CCNA would help people if like there's a lot of pivoting involved, like understanding subnetting and things like that. But I think beyond understanding subnetting, you don't need that much knowledge for OSCP.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
you can have, if you go that route, maybe you want to do more like network pen testing and red teaming, so you know um, how VLAN hopping works, how you can abuse a OSPF broadcast message, like all those type of things. But those don't come in handy that often on pen testing.
Yeah. Okay. So denial error is asking if you were starting from scratch today, what would your learning path look like? I think today is a bit different also because there are a lot of tutorials online, so that would make life easier. I feel like.
Yeah, I find myself, it's hard to answer that question, because like today versus how I started is completely different. Like
Yeah.
when I started, there was not much information out there, right? So you kind of only had one way to learn, and that was reviewing source code. And today, like it's the opposite. I think there's too much out there, and people just go into this procrastination of trying to find the best resource or find the best path.
Yeah.
I think if I was starting out, I would understand that like all the time I spend trying to find the way to learn is really just procrastination. And I would do so much better if I just set aside an hour a day or something and just did something. Um, because
Yeah.
you'll be surprised at the results. You won't notice the results the first week doing that, like 7 hours in one week. You're not going to notice the results. But if you did 1 hour per day for, let's say, 2 months, then you're going to really, really notice the results. It's a lot like going to the gym. Once you start going to the gym, you don't see results. If you expect to lose weight the first week, you're going to be demotivated and stop. But if you just say, hey, I'm going to keep at this for 2 to 3 months and then look at it, you'll probably be motivated to stick around because like you can't hack time, and with enough time, you can do anything.
Okay. So yeah, basically don't procrastinate. Just do stuff.
Yeah.
There's enough. Um, if you should pick one, what's your favorite CTF machine from Hack the Box? Ask Mr. Robot asks.
There's too many to choose from. I would maybe Holiday, because Holiday is the machine that got me onto Hack the Box. Like,
Yeah.
I remember heard about Hack the Box in IRC, and I thought it was kind of a silly site. I didn't really go at it. One of my friends asked me about like this cross-site scripting challenge, and in Holiday you have to encode a IP address. And around that time, there was, I forget what competition it was, but some CTF team was doing a denial of service against other teams, and they were abusing this IP obfuscation to do something. And I learned about it then. And then I was like, hey, try this. And it worked. And that was the intended solution. I was like, oh, wow, this is kind of cool. Like, I just read about this, like, from a CTF 2 weeks ago that launched, and Hack the Box already has this machine. Let me go see what else is out there. And this was the time when I like just was getting my OSCP, and I stopped playing StarCraft 2 and commentating because I couldn't do both at the same time.
Yeah.
And I did commentating in StarCraft 2 because I had a speech impediment growing up. So this was part of my like speech therapy, just to talk a lot and get comfortable with talking.
Yeah.
And like I missed out on that because I stopped gaming. So I was like, you know what? As I saw these machines, I'm going to commentate my way through it. And I was talking to Chap or Harris, the owner of Hack the Box, and I was like, what do you think about retiring machines eventually so I can like do videos on them? And he's like, I like that idea. And then that's kind of how it started.
That's awesome, man. The commentating is really really cool, man. It's just you also had a machine, like you have a couple machines on Hack the Box. I remember there was one where you could do SQL map on it, but you get blocked if you try it with SQL. I think it's called Union or something. The machine maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I remember that one vividly. We did your other machine like last week, but how did you do that? Just fingerprinting how so basically if you bypass that fingerprint you could still run SQL map, right?
Yeah, so
Or you don't
it's been
remember?
so long since
It's
I've
been
done
long, huh?
this. I want to say SQL map has this habit of after every command it runs, it does a dash dash space and then four random characters.
Yeah.
So dash dash in SQL is a comment. So it does a comment and then four random characters, and it uses that for some sequence tracking or something like that.
Yeah.
So I just blocked that.
You blocked that,
So if
oh,
you
fun part.
disabled that, you could get SQL map working. But
Nice. Nice. Okay. So Justin is asking, what was the biggest challenge you faced in your career so far? I think that's a big question. Your career. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
I think maybe just owning up to when mistakes are made. Um, and this isn't like just one big thing. I can't think of like one big example, but
Yeah.
I remember like starting out, I was probably, let's say, I was probably 25 or 26 at the time. So this was a decade or so ago. It's got to be longer than a decade ago. I was just starting as a sysadmin, and I started as a sysadmin when I was 18, right out of high school. So it was probably when I was like 22. But
Mm-hmm.
there were times when I just made mistakes. We had to update BIOSes. I didn't understand the purpose of updating a BIOS back then. So, like, I had 100 machines. I did like probably 25 of them. I was like, oh, the last 25 didn't do it. There's probably an error or something. And I just said the work is done. My manager got really upset because it wasn't done.
Yeah.
And like all the times you cause an outage and then go into this self-defense mode really just slows things down. I know another time when I was like pen testing, I used a tool called, I forget what it is. It's the Python NFS tool, probably NFS Pi or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And it has this weird bug where, I guess because it's Python, a bad or hacky or something like that. Sometimes when you do a file write, it doesn't write and wipes the file, and that caused like an outage. And I saved all the command history and everything. I was like, I go to the company, here, look at my terminal. This is what happened. You can see I did not try to delete the file. here's me appending to it, and then for some reason the file deleted. Hadn't seen a problem before in my tool, um, and they were very understanding, like laying out there, like, oh, I'm glad you didn't bullshit us and like cause us time spending what the hell went on, and appreciate it, right? I think owning up to your mistakes quickly saves a lot of time, and the company will be appreciative you did that. If
Yeah.
they're not, then you don't really want to work for that company because um like an employee that made a mistake is more valuable after they made the mistake than before because they learned something,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
And you can't really move forward without breaking things. So like own up to the mistake, don't waste time, don't lie. I think things will work out. It's hard to do because it's always scary because you're like, oh, I made a mistake, I'm gonna get fired for this. But once you
Yeah.
get over that, I think it helps.
Yeah, it also depends on the company culture, right? Maybe like there's a company culture doesn't make you feel maybe safe enough to maybe own up to your mistakes, because you might just get um, how do you say it? Just like they tell you like, hey, that was very bad. Maybe you need to just resign or something like that. So it depends on the
Yeah, and
culture
I
too.
think when you like go to a new job, you can say what happened. Like most places I've talked to, like if they ask why you were fired from it, and you just say, "This is what I did. This is what happened. I owned up to it, and they fired me quickly." Like the company will be like, "Oh, well, you're now a valuable employee because you know not to do that. We learned because we may do that." Like another good example that happens to almost any seasoned pen tester. A lot of people like these tools like Ruscan, things like that, because it makes Nmap go faster. But on that 1% of clients, when you go faster with Nmap, it actually causes outages. And like that's another way I've seen a lot of people take networks down, and it's just a learning experience you get.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I hear Spivim says, what would you say are the biggest differences between separate boxes like Hack the Box, CTFs, and real pentest assessments?
I want to say Hack the Box is a lot more realistic than your average CTF. Um, and that's not always a bad thing. There's a lot of CTFs out there that are very gimmicky, and they're just like, here's this challenge that I saw. It's set up so you can replicate this challenge, but you won't see a real world impact of it right away. Just because like the way it's set up. I think Hack the Box is trying set up like as a story. That being said, I'd say Hack the Box is kind of more like movie style than like real pen testing,
Hmm.
because real pen testing, you're not finding O days, exploits, things like that. Most of the time, it's just abusing like credentials you saw somewhere in a document, file share. There's a lot more just reading documentation on real life pen testing that I don't think a lot of people understand. It's not always like the flashy exploits, but um, I guess I view Hack the Box as more of brain exercises or just small like challenges. Like professional sports, they don't get good by just scrimmaging and grinding all day. They break things down like we're just going to work on passing, and they have all these drills for how to improve passing, catching, things like that. That's kind of how I view Hack the Box. Like you're going to boot up a machine, it's not going to be exactly like your work, but it's going to teach you how to think critically and build that stamina of running against the walls and not just calling it quits, learning how to troubleshoot properly, and that will help you in the long run.
Mm.
So um, I think that's where Hack the Box shines.
Mm. So, while doing Hack the Box machines, there's a lot of patterns that you see. You've probably seen a lot of patterns and you did like hundreds of videos about it. Um, why aren't there a lot of tools? Maybe I'm just not aware of them. That, for example, it's Active Directory machine automatically. It starts looking for credentials basically on the web app, looks for if there's any credentials there, tests the credentials, sees if there's srep roastable, sees if there's credentials, tries the credentials for Kerberos, looks at, I don't know, the Bloodhound data, tries to do bloody AD. Why aren't there like these automated tools, or are they already there, and would you use them?
I would not use them just because I don't think you learn a lot by just running a tool like Auto Recon to do things like that.
Hmm.
I want to say something like that is starting to exist. I forget the repository. If you look at like, I'm sure if you Google like Hack the Box AI CTF competition and
Hmm.
look at like the first place, I forget where it is on GitHub, but they have I think a like MCP that's like model context protocol or something. It's like the API for AIs, and that's where the kind of something like that shines. Um, because it's really hard to automate all those tasks, and the tools change constantly. So I think a lot of the problem, like the things that try to automate running bloody AD, things like that, it's hard for those tools to stay up to date with just all the changes and all the new attacks. Because if you run bloody AD today versus a year from now versus 2 years ago, there's so much more to that module because things keep getting added to over time.
Yeah.
So really, like you depend on someone keeping up with the change on bloody AD to update their tool that does it automatically. And there's just a huge lag time behind that. And then like people kind of work in spurts. Every time I see someone start up a project like that, it's really good for 2 months and then it's not, right? It's kind of the reason why you go to like my early hack the box videos, you'll see me playing with all these experimental C2s, but every one of them is kind of like defunct now. Like Silent Trinity, Empire, Covenant, like you use all these, they're just dead because the developers kind of stop on them, right? So you really have to build something that can ingest its documentation automatically and then understand how the tool works. And that's what like LLMs and AI is decent for. But at Hack the Box, we do private events with like the big AI, like Gemini, OpenAI, whatever Microsoft's calling theirs. And
Yeah.
they try to, they still have problems getting things working. Where it normally shines is crypto challenges because a lot of people are bad at crypto and that's where machines are really good at it.
Yeah.
But one day we may get there. I still think like people are much better at majority of the problems.
So Shifter's asking, have you been pen testing as a professional? If so, what is the biggest audit you can't forget? If you can even say it.
I don't really do that much pen testing. Most of the ones I can't talk about much. I think the most memorable one was during COVID. It was near like 6 months into it when all the travel restrictions went in play. And all my pen testing is like referral based because like I just do it on the side type of thing. I had a physical pen test that just kept getting delayed because we couldn't travel. And then I was like, you know what? Let's just do a physical pen test remotely. And then I bought a fancy like $2,500 printer, got it shipped to my house, put a 3G modem in it with some like device that was hacked into the serial of the printer, and then just emailed it to the receptionist. And they ended up setting up on the network and I had remote access to it. So that was like how I did like a physical remotely.
Damn, that's crazy. I've never heard of that, man. That's a nice story. Okay, so just the mailman gave it to the receptionist and you're in. That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah, like any company's gonna hate printers, so you ship them a really good printer. They're not gonna ask questions like, "Oh, someone ordered this. We just got it. Let's
Yeah,
plug it in."
yeah, let's plug it in. Yeah, just like a bit of a money investment, but it's fine. So
And a lot of places, like the good thing about it is they'll do like SMB based printing. So like you have the printer, then everyone's trying to authenticate you to your print, and you're like, "Oh, I got all these hashes too."
yeah,
So
yeah,
like
yeah,
you don't have to run responder because it's just sending you the hashes.
It's
So
sending
it
the
makes it
hash.
really nice.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's nice. Puli is asking, what's your vision on the future of cybersecurity with the uprising of AI? We already talked a bit about AI, but yeah, because it's also asking about your general opinion about them based on a cybersecurity aspect. It's pretty hard to predict, but do you have like a vision about how it's going to influence maybe the jobs, or maybe
It
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's not going to change that much, honestly. Like, I know it's scary because it just seems like this whole game-changing thing, but it happens so often in our industry. Like when Google first came out, people were like, "Oh, search engines are going to put everyone out of jobs because so much information's available." Then you have Stack Overflow. I'm like, "Oh, that's going to put an end to developers." And then Retina turned into Nessus, and Nessus did really good vulnerability scanning for its time. And like, oh, pen testing is not going to be a thing because we have this automated scanner.
Yeah.
And then I forget what HP called their like source code analysis tool. It was really expensive, but like, oh, these exploits aren't going to exist because this fancy source code analysis tool, or like
Yeah.
Microsoft's putting in this shadow stack to break like buffer overflows. Binary exploits won't exist. They're going to change. Like because the hackers are just going to use those tools. It's going to increase both sides, and then um, people will get better, right?
Yeah.
Like AI is helping build code. It's building pretty bad code sometimes, so hackers can do it. It's also like opening the door for a lot of hackers that have an idea how to exploit something, but they're not good programmers. So now they
Yeah.
can quickly build up like scripts to help them do what they thought about.
Yeah.
Like it works on both sides.
Yeah.
I think where AI is going to help the most is in the detection front. So once like AI gets really good at harvesting like Elastic Splunk logs like that and can find anomalies, I think that's where it's going to really shine. But again, like what is it going to do? Because the battle hasn't been can it be detected? It's like acting upon detection. I can't count how many times I went into a company as like an investigation of like malware or something like that. And then you get into the inbox and like, oh, your AV has been like blowing you up 6 months before this incident about alerts of malware. Like
Yeah.
you weren't acting upon it. So
Yeah.
even if AI gets really good at detecting things, it's still like got a human and laziness. I think it's still going to cause issues. So I don't see it changing that much.
So I'm looking at the time. I think it's already been 30 minutes. We would love to continue. I see a lot of questions, but also I gotta respect your
Yeah.
time. So yeah.
No, we can hang out a little bit longer.
Okay. Okay. That's perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Script Kitty is saying he's preparing for OSCP. So, for example, a lot of people here are also preparing for OSCP. Do you recommend people just like buy the course and just jump into it like from beginner, or do you recommend them to maybe ease into it with a couple try hack me learning paths or some hack the box easy machines and some other stuff like for someone who's like trying to go into it? How he's asking about the structure. How would you structure it?
I would not buy it if you can't solve like an easy machine on Hack the Box. I'm guessing that's like medium on Try Hack Me. I don't know. Like I've always heard Hack the Box is harder, so that's why I say
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
But
Yeah, usually.
as long as you have some foundation, we can solve machines on your own. Then I'd say just buy the OffSec plan and then go to their proving grounds, do like the TJ null list of machines elsewhere. Um, I would really just say don't try to set up a schedule based upon how many machines you root. Set it up just based upon like what you learn. So I'd say take 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, sitting down, just playing it. Maybe 2 hours is long. I would say just plan for 15 minutes. Like have your schedule somewhat open when you start. Say, I'm going to start this machine. I'm going to play it for 15 minutes. At 15 minutes, I may go on. I may stop. Who knows? But when you stop, try to write down like a positive thing you got from that experience and then just do it the next day. And then like 2 weeks from now, that's when you reflect and be like, oh, look at all these things I've learned. Let's just keep at it. But I would definitely say like set up a way to do goals. Make sure the goals are not like set up in a way where you could fail. I think just writing down learning objectives is a way that you can't fail. So do that and then make sure you set a repetition.
Because a lot of people also recommending the CPTS from Hack the Box Academy. I've did it a bit too. I did like 20% of the course, and I think it's very valuable. I think it's a bit too tough if you're a beginner. But do you recommend people to do the Hack the Box Academy, especially students? Because the price is very affordable. It's I think like 7 or 8 euros a month to do the CPTS Academy course, and it's a very good preparation, I think, for the OSCP exam as well.
Yeah, I believe those are on par. I haven't looked at the OSCP in like 5 years, so it's hard for me to like say, but I haven't really heard of anyone that's passed CPTS saying they had trouble with OSCP.
Yeah,
So that is a good way to start, I would say.
yeah. So Deki is asking a lot of pen tests today focus on AD, but things are changing fast. Where do you see the next big shift in cybersecurity? Do you think there'll be more AI testing AI systems or OT systems, or something else that we're not talking about yet? I still see a lot of web, by the way, a lot of web being tested. But yeah, do you think
Yeah,
there will be a shift?
I don't think there'll be a big shift into AI just because I don't know a lot of like companies that will set up like ways that users can interact with AI, right? Like there's not going to be many companies that have fancy AI chatbots to exploit things like that. Like all the AI is going to be internally. So like one thing AI has done really good job at is um, when I get on an Office 365 or Azure instance, I no longer have to manually pillage all the share drives. I can normally just ask Cortana, hey, where is this information? And then Cortana tells me where it is, right? That's like the AI I see in companies. So um,
Yeah.
it's not really exploiting it, right? And it's not like
It's
you're like, oh, this
utilizing.
AI told me where it was. That's not really a vulnerability either.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to shift more cloud-based because a lot of people are moving off on-prem,
Yeah.
but I don't see it as going to like AI focused.
No. Yeah, I haven't seen it a lot either. Um, Ricardo's asking, I want to get into bug bounty and now doing the path on Hack the Box. Do you have any experience in that or advice? Have some coding and security consulting experience, so I do understand protocols, etc. So some bug bounty advice basically, or if you have some experience in that, any pointers?
Yeah, so the CBBH exam is set up to give you like the foundations. And I do think it is flawed in the way that every bug bounty course has been flawed is they focus on teaching you like what SQL, XSS, all those things are. But to me, a big portion of bug bounty is automation and being able to like cast a wide net. Um, so like if you want to go into bug bounty, and be profitable. I don't think it's going to be like, I don't think you say, I'm going to go hack EA Games because they have HackerOne. And then you spend weeks trying to build this killer chain that's going to get you thousands of dollars because it's a P1 vulnerability, right? Um, it's a very big risk to do that because if you don't find anything, you just wasted multiple weeks for no income, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to be successful at bug bounty, you have to be able to cast the net wide and do like automated testing. And what do I mean by that? I mean like, oh, I'm going to look at bad password reset practices. Like, can like tokens be brute forced? Is there a vulnerability in it? Like, is it email based? How it is it? And build some framework to automate detecting that and then doing the common exploits and then just test 200 companies for that. And then you'll probably find 20 companies that are vulnerable and then get a little bit of money out of those 20 companies. And that's more like reliable income. You may not get as much income, but bug bounty, I think you have to find a way to make it reliable. And then you can always just rerun your automation script the next month when there's more companies out there, and then maybe get some more money. So I think like building automation is what a lot of people don't understand about bug bounty.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good one. If you're asked to give a 1 hour hands-on demo to a senior IT team with good infrastructure or sysadmin experience but limited exposure to security, what kind of topics or attacks would you focus on to have the biggest impact to get them more interested in cybersecurity? So basically an IT team, but they don't have too much security going on. Yeah.
Network ACLs. Um, Simple
Network,
as that.
network
Almost every
issue.
company I see, it's flatland where like every desk can access anything. Like if I hack the recruiter, there's no reason for me to go on the recruiter's PC and then be able to hit like things like the domain controller over remote desktop
Yeah.
or like be able to hit the Nagio server, whatever the man like network ACLs are so big. And like Windows firewall is amazing. Like you can do group policy with the firewall to trigger rules based upon who's logging into the machine. And you can do that on OU. So it'd be like if this user's in the administrative OU, they get this firewall profile. If they're in the users like this OU, they get this one and can't access a lot of these management things. Like that's going to go a long way. So many times you see ransomware get on a desktop, they find like a local admin credential because companies aren't using like laps and then pivot around to all the workstations. And I'm like, why can this user talk SMB to its neighboring workstations? Like we don't
Yeah.
work in broadcast protocols. Like I know there are broadcast protocols in play, like Dropbox, things like that, but it doesn't need broadcast to work. So just kill machine to machine communication if it's not an admin, and then you're going to kill a lot of the lateral movement. And also, um, if you do a good job filtering all the false positives after like 2 months, then when someone lands on a workstation, I guarantee you the red team or a hacker is going to try to do some type of lateral movement. You'll see this firewall block rule go up in your Splunk Elastic or whatever and be like, oh, this has happened and it hasn't happened in 2 months. I should go look at this.
Yeah.
And you can stop them really early, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think network ACL is where I'd start.
Yeah. That's a good one. Let me see. Well, Spipim is asking, what was the most interesting knowledge you gained outside of the IT sphere that helped you in InfoSec? Something, yeah, some interesting knowledge outside the IT sphere. Hmm. It's a deep question.
Yeah, I think it's so. Um, as I said, I was a professional StarCraft 2 player commentator before I got into InfoSec. And one of the things when you master a video game is you really take importance, reconnaissance, and enumeration, right? So if you're not familiar with StarCraft, it's a real-time strategy game. So if I'm playing against you, I build my base, you build your base. And a lot of beginners, they think recon, you just send your worker across the map and you see what they're building. Like, oh, you have this building, you're going to be building this. Then when you like get better, you're like looking at what you don't see. So you go in their base, you're like, huh, you've mined this many minerals, but you only have this. You're missing this. You built something on the map that I can't see. And you try to piece together the knowledge. Then when you get to like the grandmaster level, you're like, oh, my scouting worker spotted your scouting worker at this part of the map at this time. So this is when you sent it out. And also you're probably in this position. Like you get so much more information that just people take for granted.
Yeah.
Like I think that goes in chess. I think that goes in poker. Like when you go to the top poker players, they're not like playing based upon their hand. They're playing on what they think their opponent has. And maybe like one time out of 10, they can call the opponent's hand exactly as it is, which is always amazing to me.
Yeah.
So you just, once you get really good at something, you understand how important it is to understand that game. And that kind of relates into security because the smallest error can just tip you off on so much. Or just like, I'm running this Nmap and I see J session ID and it's off of an Nginx server. I know I have these URL bugs in play. Like, there's so much information you can get off of things that people just miss.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Even like the smaller things, like one of the early tips that I got from watching your videos when running Nmap is, for example, looking at the clock skew. For example, you can see that in one of
Yeah.
the script outputs. Oh, I didn't know you can see that in Nmap. Well, I probably saw it 10 times before that, but I didn't realize that you could have extracted info from just looking better. There, like stuff like this is very important. Let me see. Any interesting podcasts you would recommend, security related? Duji is asking.
Oh, I guess maybe like the Sandstorm Center podcast. Darknet Diaries is good. Um, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. There are a few like Golang ones I listen to when I'm getting involved. Like most of my things, like when I buy books, I don't buy books on pen testing. I buy books on just general IT programming, and then I approach it with like more of a pen testing mind. That's kind of my approach. So I wouldn't go just like I wouldn't listen to a podcast just because it's security. Like if there's a place a lot of programmers are and I want to get into programming more in security, I just go listen to the those podcasts.
Okay. So Shifter's asking, how did you come up with the story behind Wanderer? Are there any other stories in your head you might want to apply in the future?
So Wanderer is made for I want to say it was DEF CON 2023, the Red Team Village. Or at least a few machines were. And Barry Pony IP said he wanted to make it Fallout themed and use like each vault as a piece of network that you had to exploit each vault to get more information. To do a final one, I've stripped a lot of like the Fallout references for Hack the Box because of just trademark violations. When you're doing things unofficially for like short CTF, you can get away with a lot more than hosting it permanently.
Yeah, yeah.
But really, a lot of Wanderer is things I wanted to show. So, like, it starts off like if you look at my Wanderer playlist, a lot of my videos are several years old because it's just things I wanted to show in machines that haven't before. Like, it starts off with some SQL injections with a web application firewall that I used to bypass Cloudflare a long time ago. I think it's still valid. You still have to like do some weird evasion tactics to do SQL injection, like to get code execution on it. You're not really like abusing SQL in like the typical way. You got to think of how is the application using this database and then chaining it to get a file disclosure. It's not really complicated, but I don't think a lot of just machines do a good job at showing like understanding the application in general. Then it's just got a bunch of other things like Wi-Fi, NFS, things that I've done in pen testing that I wanted to put in a lab and like tie it together.
And Hank, I think this is the last question. How do you manage time? I have problems getting enough sleep when I'm learning and playing HTV. And I would like to add something to that question is basically like, when was the time in your life where you were learning the most? Or are you learning the machines like one day before you're doing them on YouTube? Or like, do you already know how to solve those hack the box machines before you make the videos? Or like, how is your time, how is your schedule basically when also when solving hack the box and making videos about them?
Um, I generally say like I always set fifth like I said before, I just set a time. I have nothing really going on after that. So if I run late, it's fine. And I just say at 15 minutes, I'm gonna start playing this. So like I try to make sure I'm in bed by 10:30 every day. So I'd say, hey, these days at 8 o'clock, I have nothing really else going on. At 8, I'm going to spend 15 minutes and then we'll see how long it goes from there. If I may give up at 8:15, I may give up at 9, I may give up at 10, I may go all the way to 10:30 and then go to bed. It really just goes from there. And if I start falling behind, I say, you know what? I'm going to set this either an hour earlier or find an extra day. I really just kind of go with the flow and make sure like I set time aside every day. There's a lot of days I sit down, it's 8 o'clock, I finish with like everything I need to do for the day. Like I really just want to play a game. But you know what? I'm still going to play 15 minutes. And um, if I want to give up at 8:30, then I can. So I think it's more just commitment, dedication, things like that.
Yeah, commitment to starting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So yeah, this is a very small question, so I think we'll just finish with this. Jesse is asking your favorite StarCraft 2 commander. What did you
I never played the campaign of StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
I only did versus.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and because I was a commentator, I also played all the races. My favorite was Terran, but my best was probably Zerg. I was Grandmaster Zerg on Korea, Grandmaster Terran on US, and Protoss on EU. And then on the Southeast Asia with Australia, I was Grandmaster on random.
You're playing on multiple servers, is that normal or I don't really play it.
Uh, well, like I did commentating, so I had to have accounts on every server
Okay. That's
um,
crazy. Yeah.
to hop in games. And like you want to play on Korea because that's where the best players are. And then like I did played on US, like, you know what? I should do it on the other ones as well.
Crazy. Hey, IppSec, man, it was really amazing to have you here. Like I said, I've been watching your videos for so long, and a lot of people here in the community watching your videos for so long. Really excited that you were here. So thank you for taking out time out of your busy schedule and answering all of these questions. And yeah, thank you very much. So if anyone's not subscribed yet to the IppSec channel, definitely check that one out. And also Nimble, one of our moderators, made a song specially for this occasion, for you being here. So when you have some time, take a listen to that one. And yeah, it was very informative, and it was very, very nice having you here. So thank you, man. And yeah, we'll definitely keep checking out the content on YouTube. So yeah,
Yep. Thanks,
for being
everyone.
here.
Take care. It was a
Yeah.
blast.
Take care. Have a nice
Bye.
day. Bye bye.